Hi there, it's Paul from Wolf Software Systems Limited, and I'm going to start off by making a bit of an apology. I have autism, so sometimes I do like a brain dump on these videos, and I don't even sit back and think that I should really explain what you're looking at. So, Wolf Software Systems, we built something called Code Wolf, which we use for migrating and translating millions of, literally millions of lines of clients' code. And we also run quite a few servers, and we have quite a few Proxmox clusters. However, we found that Proxmox is just too slow, too difficult to. It's not difficult, but there's just lots of gotchas with it. And for what we need, we just some time ago decided that we were going to build our own clustering software for managing servers, Proxmox. Servers, Docker containers, LXC containers, virtual machines, and some other things I'll talk about towards the end. I'll talk about our roadmap. So what are you looking at? So Wolfstack is a very much easier way to group servers together and actually to run Docker and LXC and virtual machines and things like that on them. The LXC containers are LXC containers, and anyone who knows Proxmox knows it's exactly the same thing. Virtual machines are KVM type virtual machines. I'll show you one of those in a minute. That's Windows. And I've got a few Proxmox containers on this machine. There's some Docker stuff going on as well. And basically, it's just a way of making things a bit nicer and a bit easier, like a networking thing that actually shows you all your interfaces and allows you to add IPs and things like that, change name servers. So what I'm going to do is a bit of a more detailed run through of the whole thing. So first of all, we're going to start with our data center page. And if you scroll, so you'll see, first of all, it's got a map of roughly where it thinks the servers are. And I'll show you quite a few. And the blue ones are Proxmox and the green ones are Wolfstack clusters. And we've got some in the UK as well as Germany. And if I scroll down, you can see it's got the Wolfstack cluster. This one is actually our local network in the office. And in fact, Wolf is this laptop that I'm on now. So actually, if I turn this off and go to work and come in the morning and plug it in, it automatically switches over to the Wolf, to the work network rather than mine. And I'll explain how we do that. And then we've got, this is a Minio cluster of a couple of servers that we've got. And you can see it's all very healthy. And then we've got, this is a one of our Proxmox clusters. This is another Proxmox cluster. This is another Proxmox cluster, etc., etc., etc. And so I've got one screen there. Now I've also got AI here, which isn't working at the moment because the API key we've got is actually not. So my home network changes its IP all the time. It's a bit of a pain, and I must do something about it. But so with the AI thing, you can actually ask it questions about the cluster. And what it also does is it checks every hour. It'll check the whole cluster and it'll look for anything that's looking unhappy. And also if there's a much faster response, if there's a machine that's down. So yeah, okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to show you. So the Proxmox clusters and the machines on Proxmox are much simpler. They've got like a dashboard showing normal sort of things, all the VMs and containers that are running on them, and you can actually run some of things. We're going to expand that as time goes on. There you go. You can see it's starting to see network traffic, CPU history. So this is coming from the each Proxmox cluster. And the beauty of it is it's all in one place. Now, we prefer Wolfstack clusters because, and I'll show you why. So first thing is we have a number of pieces of software that we've developed. One is called WolfNet, and WolfNet is actually one of the foundational parts of the Wolfstack cluster. So one of the issues we had with Proxmox is that if you rent some IP addresses, or you rent a server with some IP addresses or a VLAN, and you don't get the configuration right, you suddenly find you can't get access to the server, and then you have to try and boot into it and fix it, or you just reformat the thing if you only just set it up. It's just a pain, and we don't want to do that. So we invented this thing called WolfNet. That is a secure, like military-grade secure private network, and each of our Wolfstack clusters has its own WolfNet. And when you install, so to install all this stuff is one line. You just drop this line on your Linux machine, run it, and you've got your Wolfstack. And then you just, for everyone, then you just do it on all the servers, and it automatically sets everything up. If they're on the same network, they will auto discover each other. If they're not, you can just use the add server function here to add it, and it says, what sort, is it a Proxmox? If it is a Proxmox, then it explains how to do it. And then you just put in the host name or the IP address, and the server will, and what happens is that they'll connect to each other. So in this case, what I did with these two, which I did this evening, was basically Cynthia and Sophie, bless them, was that I set it up on Cynthia and I set it up on Sophie, and then I ran so there's a command you can run where you can actually connect. You actually run, even though they're actually not on a local network with each other. I was able to connect them over WolfNet, and it just makes life easier. Yeah, and actually, it actually works fine with IPs where the IPs change. You can use Dyn DNS, for instance, to link things up as well. If you haven't got static IP, you really need one static IP at the other end. But WolfNet is a very cool bit of stuff. And here, in fact, you can see actually this is WolfNet running on Wolfstack on this one. Yeah, this is our node. You can see data going backwards and forwards and the setup and everything like that. And so, yeah, that's WolfNet. So then we've got Wolf Proxy, which I've not using here. I normally install it into a container, and basically what it does is it allows us to, it's an Nginx replacement. So if you've got Nginx set up, you can stop Nginx and start Wolf Proxy. All this stuff is written in Rust, the whole lot. Now, if you don't know what Rust is, it's a very, very fast programming language. WolfServe we developed to replace Apache 2. It's much faster than Apache 2. Wolf Disk, so in the office we have a machine with a big disk in it, and with Wolf Disk we're able to share that disk as a resource to this cluster. And obviously, if you want to set up another cluster, you can. Wolf Disk is basically like a file replication thing as well. So what you can do with Wolf Disk is you could have, let's say you have 3 machines, and one of them is the lead, what we call the leader. Okay, and what happens is that everything is written and read from the leader, or it can be read from one of the other nodes. But basically, those 3 can keep copies of each other up to date, and it knows things like, so if you try and read some data, a file from one of the nodes, and it's not up to date, it'll just point you at the leader. If the leader fails, then another one will automatically become the leader. There's no quorum voting, and anyone who knows about Proxmox and different systems that use quorum voting, I think I've thought for a long time, you get this split node thing, and it just can end up in a big mess. This happens a lot with database clusters as well. Which brings us to something else. We've got Wolfscale. That is our database clustering software, and what that does is it allows you. So basically, it's designed for MariaDB primarily. You probably use it on other MySQL type databases, but the idea is that with Wolfscale, let's say you make a 3-node cluster, so you'd make 3 machines with MariaDB on them. You then once that's all set up, you install Wolfscale on the top, over the top on each machine. And it uses WolfNet as well to actually keep them in sync with each other. But Wolfscale also can act as a load balancer and proxy. So let's say you had 3 web servers on 3 different machines, and you're using Wolf Proxy to actually direct the traffic to those web servers. You could use Wolf Disk to have a shared drive for the www pages, and then Wolfscale can sit. So then on each machine you have Wolfscale installed as a load balancer for the database servers. And that means you can lose. There's no single point of failure there. Basically you can lose a web server, and it doesn't matter. So there's no single point of failure apart from the initial load balancer into the web servers, but you can get around that as well. So, and that's a whole other thing. MariaDB, everyone knows about. Now I have MariaDB running on my machine, and that's this machine here. So this is actually my home computer, and look at how it's tied up actually with all the clusters that are in the cloud, as if it's part of it. And that's the cool thing about this. If you're running Linux on your home computer, you can just install Wolfstack straight on it, and it'll just integrate with your machine. Or you could run a VirtualBox and install some Linux and do it on that. It should work okay. So let's talk about some of the other things. So that's basically dealing with what you're seeing here with the components, and then it's got these one-line install scripts so you can stick them in containers and things like that. So services is, this is what's actually running on this machine right now, and I can control them through here. Docker is obviously for setting up Docker containers, and do you know what? I really hate configuration files. I really hate having to edit them, and if I can get out of doing it, I will. So if you go create a container, you can choose Debian, for instance, and it will search for the containers, and there's different Debian things in there, and you can just go, select that one and create a Docker container, and you can start them and control them from here. So I've started that up, and actually you can go, there's a little terminal button, so you can just pull straight into that Docker container. So especially if you're trying to learn, it saves all that messing around. Now notice that IP address, that's a Wolfnet IP address, so it means that you don't have to do any configuration at all for your IP addresses. It just does it. And if you want an external address to point to that, you can literally set it up in the networking, which I will get to very shortly. So if I stop this one, I've got functions like cloning and everything like that. And if I go to the settings, I'll do the settings later. No, we're not going to do settings now. There's logs and volumes that are mounted on it, etc., etc. So yeah, so that's that. And then you've got proper LXC containers, exactly the same as Proxmox. You can take, so you can basically, I've got a Debian one running there, so let's pull that up. I can't remember what it's called. What is it called? There it is. So you can see it's running there. And then I've got a virtual machine. And just to show you how cool Rust is, okay, this machine's got 4 CPUs and 8 gig of RAM, sorry, and only 100 gig disk, and we're running Windows. Watch how fast it is. So I can just start it like this. And there it's got a little terminal there. I'm going to use this one. It gives you a choice of terminals. And so this is like a VNC terminal. So you could actually connect to it with a different VNC client if you wanted to, but I just use the terminal one. It works really well. So you can see I'm logging into it, and look how fast it is. Anyone who runs Windows on VirtualBox or anything like that, it's dog slow. And this one is actually really, really fast. Although I do have a bit of trouble with this laptop screen as it's running under Linux. Yeah, so you see how fast it is with 8 gig of RAM. It's running Windows 10. Not too bad, not too shabby. So I'll just close that for now. And then you've got storage. So this is where you set up your storage. Now, Wolfstack has built-in S3 storage, and anyone who has tried to get S3 working on Proxmox, you can do it. There's a few ways of doing it, where you either install it into containers or VMs, or you install it on the host and then do a mount to the drive. I hate that. I just don't want to fiddle around with it. So with Wolfstack, it actually has it all set up, so you can just add a mount like this, and it choose what sort of storage, and of course you can use Wolfdisk. You can do a bind mount directory to the host, so that makes life it's just really nice. Do you know what I mean? And then that means you can go into your containers, and let's pick this one here, go into settings. If you want to add a mount to it, which one is it? There's all your features, resources, bind mount. So add a mount. In fact, I want to just add Wolfdisk to it. I'll just hit OK twice, and it'll add the Wolfdisk to it. So that's set up, or I can add a mount with something else. So let's put it in MNT. For instance, let's just give it I know the guys are working on some nice input boxes, and then we can map to that, so we can add some more resources to that. I'll just get rid of that one. So yeah, so you can do your mounting and everything like that. You can set up your IPs. Now you can basically, with this one, I'm going to set it to a Wolfnet IP, and it just does it automatically, so it'll look up what's available. I'm going to set that to 50 just for fun. Because Wolfnet is running there, so let me show you how that works. So we've done Docker storage, we've done networking, so you can basically map if you get a public IP, you can just add them in here. You don't have to fiddle around with it. Okay, and you can see that it tells you about how WolfNet's running. Now you can see that's unreachable because we're not in that configuration. When I get to the office, it will be working. You can see on here it shows your network interfaces. So this is actually the bridge for. You can see it's a WolfNet bridge for. I've got Tailscale running on this machine because I use that sometimes. And there's various different things, Dockers, DAOs. I don't think I'm running anything at the moment. So WolfNet 0 can change your DNS, search domains, everything like that. It's all available here without you having to fiddle around with it. Backups. So backups are compatible with. So you can obviously store it on your normal storage that you've set up, or it's fully compatible with Proxmox. This is our Proxmox backup server in Dusseldorf, and I can basically, these are actually backed up from a Proxmox cluster, and I can just restore them on here and run them as LXC containers. I normally have to go in and edit the configuration a little bit, or I can just set up some backups. I can set up scheduled backups. I can choose where it's going to go. And the beauty of using Proxmox backup server is it's pretty good. So that makes life a bit more easy. So yeah, so these are actually Proxmox backup server stuff. You've got some VMs and snapshots. Okay, and then there's the WolfNet configurator. So this is where you can see what's going on here. And again, it looks a bit funny because I'm on a remote network. If I was on a local network, it would show us what's going on. I'll show you a bit more WolfNet in a minute. So there's no server certificates. Obviously, this is a local machine. So if I go to one that has got certificates, it actually automatically picked the certificates we set up for something else. So you can set up your certificates in there, and of course, then we've just got a terminal, so I can access the terminal for this machine. I think we've got NeoFetch on here, yeah. So we can access the terminal for this machine. If AI was working now, I'd actually ask it to tell you all about this machine, or what's the most powerful machine in the cluster, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's quite a powerful toolkit. So all you do to set up, so you basically, servers are arranged into clusters like this, and all you do to set it up is literally, so if you go to wolfstack.org, okay, you'll be greeted by all these masses of documentation, but there's like a quick start. Just grab that and run it as sudo or some. I know we did actually have a thing with one server we tested on today where you do have to actually, because, okay, so what happened was the standard user we logged into it didn't have sudo right, so we couldn't run the script directly. We had to log in and we had to go in as a sudo first and then run it. It'll install all the dependencies, and it does something very, very cool. It pulls the source code down, which is on an FSL 1.1 license, and it will compile it down to the operating system it's running on. Now that sounds like a bit extreme, but it's just one line and it does it. But we prefer that because you get better performance by something that's actually compiled to run on the operating system that it is supposed to be running on. Now, this is mainly because we do a lot of work. We're doing a lot of work with IBM, with their IBM Power series, and of course their RISC processors. So we kind of do have to do a bit of stuff like that. I know this probably looks all a bit complicated, but it's a much easier route to it than, because you can be up and running with one line of code, and you can have Wolfstack running on one machine. Then you go to the next machine and get that one going, and if they're on the same network, they'll see each other. If they're not, and you can just do the add server thing, and it'll just deal with a lot of the back configuration that you'd normally have to do with other clustering programs. And because it's written in Rust, it's lightning fast. And then there's obviously the settings for setting up your emails and API keys and stuff like that. Email services, because obviously when the AI monitoring needs to send emails when there's a problem. We probably will actually put text messaging in. And this was built, part of the reason this was built, so we have a client who wanted 24-hour support. So save ourselves having to spend 24 hours and have staff staring at screens. We can just basically make it do it itself. That's a lot. Oh, excuse me. It's getting a bit late. We've had a very long day today. Lots of meetings. So enough about that. So Wolfstack is a one-line install. So you go to wolfstack.org. Okay, we do have a Patreon. Please do consider donating some cash to this. There's a tiny company. We're a tiny company of 3 people. And so we haven't got the funding of like Apache or Proxmox or anything like that. We've got no funding. We've built this off our own backs. Yeah, so you just copy that, pull up a Linux server and run it. Okay. Don't run it in an LXC container. It isn't going to work. It'll probably work okay in a VM. But it's best run on Debian 13 and bare metal or any other. In fact, we're running this cluster on Fedora, which is actually, I should show you this. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so there's this one. Okay, so this cluster is running on a Fedora. This is Debian 13, and these are the Proxmox clusters, which are running on Proxmox, basically. So, and of course, migrating from one to the other isn't too much of a problem because I can just back it up and restore it using Proxmox backup. Just not a problem. So the future for this, our roadmap is quite interesting. We don't really publish it because it tends to change as time goes on, but we are looking at all kinds of integrations. We want to build a serverless kind of idea, but instead of having to do the normal thing where you have to make those horrible YAML files that everyone hates, just to make a really easy serverless thing where you can just pull up there is no real serverless thing, folks. It's running on servers. Even though they say it's serverless, what they really mean is it's not inside a container. You're just running it against something. So we're planning to do something along those lines. We are also planning to do Kubernetes built into it. Now, we've already got Docker built into it, but kind of like the auto-scaling idea of Kubernetes. So we're either going to implement Kubernetes into it, or we're going to implement Kubernetes type scaling, where you could say, with LXC containers, how about this? If you could say, okay, I've got this LXC container, I need 3 of those running, 1 on each machine. And if we get a bit of load, we want to fire up another copy. There's no reason LXC containers can't do that. And with WolfNet, we can automatically assign the IP addresses and do the load balancing. So that's kind of cool. So that's one thing. So we're looking to actually integrate a lot of technologies, but take the horridness out of it. And we deal with a lot of code bases. We've got a 28-year-old code base that we are talking to somebody about, and that'll be about 1.5 million, 2 million lines of code. And it's a real problem when in the future, it's like if you set up Kubernetes and then you bring someone else on because the guy left 6 months ago, there's no documentation. It can be a bit of a dog to worm your way around it all. And this kind of takes that away. It makes it much, much easier. So yeah, do have a look at wolfstack.org. Have a look at the documentation. Please sign up for our Patreon. We've also got a Discord channel. If you go down to here, join our Discord. You can talk to me there if you want to talk to me. Yeah, and talk to us if you're a commercial company and you want to implement something like this, or talk about rebuilding old code with CodeWolf. We did a fantastic. We had a great time at MariaDB Day a week ago. Was it last week? I don't know. It feels like a month ago, but just demonstrating CodeWolf and what that does. And this is built to run CodeWolf because we tend to run it on 3 servers at once. Good. That's enough of me talking. wolf.uk.com. Wolfstack.org is the site where you can find all the details about our stuff that we've built. Please get in touch if you are interested in development work or us migrating and documenting massive databases. Yeah, so I think that's about all I'm going to say. I've just got to find out how to turn off this thing. Okay, how do you turn it off? There it is. That one. I'm running Nabara Linux, by the way, just in case you wanted to know that.